Hello, and thank you. This is our final presentation for BA576, and our team is covering the U.S. airline industry, a comparative social media hot topic analysis. Our team members include Michael Abraham, Ruoran Gao or Laura, Eric McCormick, Mariela Morales Villegas, and Sergio Valenzuela. So what we're going to be walking you through today is an introduction and business problem, data description, methodology, results, and discussion, overall conclusion, and we'll end it up with our team contribution. So from an introduction perspective, and this kind of our guiding thoughts of how we were approaching this project is we really wanted to analyze the U.S. airline industry through social media channels. We also wanted to evaluate sentiments and trends over a specific period of times. We wanted to model our data from 2015 and 2018, which is obviously current, to support our findings. We wanted to understand patterns that could reflect customer behavior and feelings, and really identify hot topics that could be used by the industry to improve performance and their overall strategy. So what are some of the business problems that we wanted to really hit on with this information by gaining the overall insights from social media data? One of the thoughts is around how can airlines gain an analytic edge to increase their market share through this data. We wanted to find hot topics that could lead us to action or lead the industry to actions, and really kind of create some models, right, that could, from an analytics perspective, give the industry better consumer insights. And then we really wanted to answer the so what question once we went through this effort. And really the so what is, how do we turn social media data into insights, and more importantly, into actions for this industry? How relevant is this business problem? We really wanted to understand the consumer needs through social media. We believe that it can give airlines the ability to take action, give them an edge into their marketplace with their consumers. Knowing that consumers are really finicky, especially in this industry, what they're saying can prevent lost revenue, also can bring better loyalty within the industry, and help the airline companies be more successful long term. With today's technology, especially around social media, airlines need to be aware of consumers not only online but also offline, and knowing that social media is a gateway between the two. This is something that we really wanted to bring to the surface. And then knowing the sentiment trends from 2015 and 2018 can help airlines improve and can help them set the strategy not only for today but for long term. So what is our specific focus in this journey? Is really to demonstrate class learning that we have learned today in BA576 and working with two different data sets. We wanted to understand and analyze the United States aviation industry as represented on Twitter, essentially around customer service focus, airline challenges and biggest complaints, areas where each airline is succeeding or potentially even failing. And really our overall goal was to be able to make recommendations for change or best practices to each airline consider, as well as to the broader U.S. aviation industry, not only for current year 2018, but also for the future, as they're building this strategy long term.
So with this being a data and text mining class, obviously that's the focus of our data sets as well. So I'll speak a little bit about the data that we utilized for this analysis project. As we take a look, so as mentioned, this is a Twitter-focused project. So as we began to do our analyses, the first steps were obtaining data from our 2 years. We were able to obtain a 2015 Twitter data set from an online and publicly available source called Kaggle, which contained tweets from us contained within 6 U.S.-based airlines. You can see the list there, including Southwest, Delta, United, American Airlines, U.S. Airways and Virgin Air as well. The 2018 data set that we utilized for this project was actually compiled by our own team in real time this term, utilizing some of the similar airlines as well as attributes, as I'll show you here in just a moment. We did have 5 airlines instead of 6 in 2018 due to the merging of American and U.S. Airways a couple of years ago. So that's the base of our data set, and I'll show you a little bit more about that as we transition on. So as we look at the sources and processing that we utilized, this was very much a project based in RapidMiner, Tableau, and then some of the Airline interfaces that we covered in our course this year. And you can see again, the 15 data set was already available for us, and the 2018 set was one that we were able to create processes in RapidMiner and develop that Twitter data set through some of our own compiling and searching and scraping techniques that we were able to put together. So with that, we were able to create 2 sizable data sets for our comparison across the 2 years. As we take a look then at the very basics of our 2015 Twitter data set, our data set includes roughly 14,000 tweets, again, across the 6 airlines, and you can see a screen cap of what that looks like here. So including a number of attributes from airline to sentiment type to text that's included with some of that social media content. And we tried to model our 2018 data set very similarly. So as you flip to the next slide, you can see what that looks like as well. It was a little bit smaller in terms of size. So it was about 3,000 tweets that our team was able to compile. That was a little bit more resource intensive in terms of putting that all together and scraping the web for those. So due to some time and resource constraints, we kept that data size just a little bit smaller. We do mention again that it was a 5 airline set here, but even from the screen cap that you can see here on the slide, we tried to make it modeled similarly in terms of attributes and layouts and things of that nature. So we did have very comparable data that we could look at between the 2 years, and we were really happy with the data sets that we were able to obtain. As you take a look at the final kind of data information slide, you can see the attributes that were contained prior to pre-processing within our data sets here. A total of 16 attributes were available for our team to consider and decide if we wanted to include or not include them in some of our analysis. But you can see them listed here. So from ID records to tweet content to the users that produced the tweet, if any users were mentioned or sent directly via notification that the tweet was sent to them, we were able to capture that, as well as some location and retweet count information that you can see listed there. We'll talk a little bit here in just a moment about some of the variables that we kept versus some of those that we did not. But at a very basic level, that is the data that we had available.
So as you can see, we have 16 attributes in each dataset. So it's a huge dataset. Before exploring our data, we want to kind of clean our data and make the model more efficiently and increase our model accuracy. We have 2 parts of pre-processing here. Firstly is a general part. We kind of filter our language to only English and delete some unhelpful attributes here, like the geolocations, retweet counts, polarity confidence, and extra. The second part will depend on different needs. Each team member will reprocess their data to better fit in different models here. So we kind of structure our direction from the developed topics. We develop our topics from several days, from focusing on the Southwest airline to transfer to focus on 5 different airlines and compare their different models and the data sets. And we seek out and collect data through the RapidMiner and download many data from the Twitter. Then we do some investigation in our data set and refine our project proposals and goals here. Then we do the pre-processed data, visualize data to see what kind of is the key variables, what is the thing we can do next. And we create RapidMiner process and run data through them. So we also analyze through determine the useful project goals here, and some classification models, clustering models here. And finally, we do discussion and create the 2018 recommendations and do some proof conclude here.
So the first method that we used was visualization, and for that we used Tableau software to be able to analyze all the tweets that we got by each of the airlines that we identified, and each of the sentiments from the text by each tweet. Based on that, we were able to identify and discuss all the trends and hot topics for each of them. The results for these methods will be shown later in this document. When we also did clustering, it was also done for both of the data sets. The objective of using this method was to understand the attributes within each airline and within each year to identify the hot topics for the customers. The next method that we used was classification. The goal of using classification was to be able to have a model that will classify the new tweets based on the training data that we had, and to be able to convert the information contained in the tweets for each of both data sets 2015 and 2018, and see how that will affect the final model. For that, we did first some text preprocessing using tokenized transform cases, filter tokens by length, filter stopwords, and stemming through RapidMiner. Then we use the classification operator, in this case the naive Bayes, for our learning model technique. In this case, we did test several classification operators, but the naive Bayes was the one that gave us better results. And finally, we reduce any bias of this classification model due to the difference on the population from 2015 to 2018. And we apply the assembled learning using AdaBoost. Here is a screen of the classification model, which is the same for both the datasets on 2015 and 2018.
We also applied an association analysis with the objective of developing a model that exhibits strong association within the body of text for the tweets. In comparing 2015 to 2018's data, we wanted to construct a model that produced results showing strong associations, identifying hot topics, and the most relevant text relationships. Diving deeper, we wanted to analyze if there was any significant difference or similarities between the two data sets. In regards to our model development, association analysis was applied to both data sets. As you can see in the screen here, this model was applied to both 2015 and 2018. And through some minor adjustments to confidence levels and minimum support, we were ultimately able to produce association rules for both data sets. As seen in the figure, the data was loaded in RapidMiner. We used a select attributes operator so that we could instruct the model to focus primarily on the desired variable, which was the body of the text within the tweet. And then moving forward, we were using process documents from data, using binary term occurrences as our vector creation option. We use our typical text processing operators, tokenize, filter tokens, filter stopwords, and stemming. And then, as we all know, to obtain association rules, we must first find frequent patterns within the data. And to prepare our model for a frequent pattern and association rule analysis, we had to convert the results from nominal to binomial. And then we were able to utilize the FP growth and create association rule operators to complete the model. Beyond the text processing operators, adjustments to the support and confidence levels were made to capture the most prevalent associations. These adjustments were made to the FP growth and create association rule operators, resulting in a list of associations that exhibited hot topic and prevalent conversation topics within the aviation tweet data and their relationships. And in the end, we noticed some interesting results that I'll soon discuss. We developed a model that aligned with our objective of identifying relationships and associations, and utilize RapidMiner to implement our text processing methodology. So moving forward, I'll just go ahead and dive into our results for the association. And we noticed some pretty interesting aspects here for this particular method. In 2015, you can see hot topics for the tweets typically being around customer complaints of some sort. So, as we see the word cancel typically resulted in mentioning the cancellation of a flight And the word service being mentioned likely led to a tweet mentioning something about a customer service issue. In summary, 2015 association rules show a strong association between terms revolving around customer service issues and complaints. In contrast, 2018 results are shown on the right here in this slide, and it shows that certain events have generated more attention via Twitter than customer service complaints or issues, as was the case in 2015. Terms that show the strongest associations revolve around a rockfall collapse that caused a cloud of ash, which obviously severely impacted the operations of several airlines. And then even diving deeper beyond this list, we also saw terms related to an incident where a passenger had a medical emergency and there was a doctor on board who stepped up and helped. And these particular tweets were retweeted and circulated in high volume, which is why we see these terms exhibiting the strongest associations, because these tweets were repetitive within our data set due to the high volume of retweets. And this may be an indication of how Twitter has evolved, becoming a top source of news for users due to the sharing and retweeting of news headlines and articles, whereas direct tweets to airline companies may have been the most common for tweets in 2015. We see that 2018 is heavily impacted by the quote-unquote going viral effect, where headlines for particular incidents are shared and spread rapidly. So although our association analysis did not show a similar hot topic and association rules, it's important to note that Twitter has evolved. And with this information, it's imperative for airline companies to continue to assess the landscape of Twitter to fully understand exactly how it's being used over time. And with Twitter being relatively a young social media platform, it's no surprise that user behavior and utilization has shifted over time. In order to keep social media analysis relevant, the airline industry should recognize this difference and continue to understand these changes and adapt their analysis methods appropriately over time.
So since our sentiment model is based on sentence, we couldn't see lots of differences between the 2015 dataset and the 2018 dataset, but we can see lots of hot topics are in common. For example, for the positive sentiment, customers are satisfied with the free Wi-Fi, cheaper prices, and the safe and sweet customer services. And it's more about timely response, patient and nice to compliment, package, services, and the price. And for the negative sentiments, customers are complaining about the flight delay, the lack of drinks, no desired response, and the baggage check. So these top hot topics are very similar. We kind of collect these old hot topics and put them into three different categories here. First part is customer services, and it can be divided into the pre-flight services, in-flight services, and post-flight services. And besides this one, it's more about the flight safety and the pricing strategy. If the company could improve based on these three categories, the customer services will increase a lot far, and the customers will more satisfied with the flight companies here.
We were also able to play with some of our clustering processes and come up with interesting results, which I'll highlight here. Taking a look first at some of our 2015 information, we eventually settled on making our clusters the number of 6 for 2015, and it corresponded nicely into each airline becoming a cluster here. As you can see, we've listed out each airline and some of the hot topics that came along with them, and at a very high level, you can see that essentially American Airlines, United Airlines, as well as U.S. Airways, all very much trended towards negative words and negative feeling and sentiment from users on the social media site. So when you look at delays, service, bags lost, customs, and things like that, those were pretty prevalent in those airlines. Whereas some of our others, including Virgin America, Delta, and Southwest, had much more of a mix of some positive sentiments with thanks and assistance and shout outs, in addition to some of those issues with cancellation and lost bags and things of that nature. So apparently back in 2015, there was already some differentiation between some of our airlines in the industry in terms of some of the issues they were facing on the social media platform. So as you take a look at 2018's clustering results, we did see some interesting findings as we were playing with these. In addition to trying to find a cluster for each airline, this was also a data set where an apparent news cluster also developed, and that's highlighted by cluster 2, where we had some information about volcanoes and Hawaiian travel coming into our results with vacations and impacted flights and things of that nature. But when you look at just our airlines in specific, as we looked into our clustering results, things such as Virgin America and Southwest, again, really raking in both sides of the coin with praise, as well as the occasional issue with delays or cancellations or customer service complaints, whereas United American and Delta Airlines continued to be skewed towards negative connotation and issues, so missed flights, unhappy customers, complaints, and things like that. So that was interesting to see how those trends continued from 15 to 18 for some of those airlines sets. Here in 2015, we highlighted our data sets both by polarity type, so when we consider negative, neutral, or positive sentiment, as well as broke that down by airline, which you can see there in the bottom left-hand portion of the screen. So evidently in that bottom part of the visualization, red is obviously negative connotation or tweet sentiment, the blue is neutral, and the green is positive. And you can see how we are overwhelmingly negative across pretty much all airlines, with American, United, and U.S. Airways certainly having the brunt of those issues. And as you see the chart on the right, negative tweets are basically a 2-to-1 between neutral and positive. So 2015, the negativity was certainly there. But if you contrast that into what we'll look at for 2018, you'll see that sentiment has changed just a little bit as we look at some of those results. In our 2018 results, you can see how we have, on the broader scale, much less negative connotation and sentiment on the whole, and more of neutral and news content, and less issues with airline relations, as highlighted by some of those blue colorings in the bottom left-hand side. American Airlines, as well as United and a couple others, still have some issues, but compared to 2015, there is more just objective content versus subjective content being posted. And you can see, as highlighted in the right-hand diagram, neutral content now outweighs the negative content, which is a change from what we saw 3 years ago. So very interesting to see just what the counts and the division of some of our tweet data looks like that we were able to put together.
Another visualization that we did was a word cloud to show some of the hot topics. And what we have here is 2015, which is the airplane figure on the left, versus 2018, which is on the right. And again, kind of showing the change in landscape for Twitter, we see that there were definitely a few more significant hot topics reflected by the size of the words. So obviously, 2015, you have flight, you've got customer service, issue being prevalent, right? That's because in 2015 we had the most significant words being revolving around the cancellation of flights or customer service issues. In contrast, 2018, as we mentioned before, with the shift in the Twitter landscape, we had these words that are associated with these tweets that were retweeted in heavy volumes, showing that there are hot topics that show no one single word is more significantly used or more significantly occurring within the 2018 data, mainly because we have particular tweets that all contain obviously the same sentence or the same paragraph being retweeted at such high volumes that those words become the most prevalent. And as you can see, there's not much difference in the size of the words in the 2018 figure here. And so moving along and transitioning to our business action recommendations, kind of putting this all together, one of our recommendations was to continue using Twitter as a two-way communication street between the airline industry and the customers. We also noticed that Delta and United Airlines could definitely utilize the social media platform a little bit more, as shown when Eric was going over some of our clustering models, and also seen in our classification analysis. We also know that American Airlines has a number of more pressing internal issues that they need to fix. which was a pretty interesting find when looking at the different companies here. And we did notice Southwest Airlines can be a role model for effective airline use, kind of going back to that whole sentiment analysis as well as their polarity. We noticed that Southwest Airlines definitely had a more positive footprint in the Twitterverse, so to speak. And in conclusion, we believe that the airline industry as a whole still has customer issues to deal with. I think one of the most interesting things is that these airline industry companies can use Twitter almost as a metric, because if they notice that their sentiment is at a particular level and they implement some significant customer relations initiatives and improve those customer experiences, later down the road they can then recreate this analysis and they should see a difference amongst the tweets that are related to their particular company. Some airlines definitely have seen great improvement in customer relations as we compare 2018 to 2015. And also we noticed that the direct correlation to how airline handles its physical operations and logistics, as well as Twitter use, remains extremely important as a tool for these companies, especially nowadays with the going viral effect. We definitely have retweets and customer experiences can be shared and publicized in a matter of seconds across Twitter. And then lastly, and most importantly, our project goals were accomplished, and we were able to produce some 2018 business action items that we think that are useful for the airline industry as a whole as we analyze these particular companies. And with that, we'd like to thank everybody for your time and watching our presentation. We also look forward to receiving any of your questions in regard to our presentation and answering those to our best ability. And moving along, we'd also like to mention some of our team member contributions. As you can see here, big thanks to the team. We worked really hard and feel really good about our analysis here on the airline industry. Thank you.